One of the most important jobs in Thomas is the narrator. The narrator doesn't just have to narrate, however, in the classic series and the hit era, they'd have to do the character voices. So which narrators from the UK and US narrators group are the best at narrating which characters? Of course, these are just my opinions, and of course there's going to be some bias in here. Feel free to let me know what your favourite voices for which narrators are down below. So with that, let's get started. Since Thomas is the main character of the series, he will have to be the one character that is narrated by every single narrator. Now, Ringo Starr's Thomas. I do like Ringo Starr's narration a bit. In season 1 it was meh, season 2 is a lot better. But Ringo Starr, he doesn't really have the best character voices in my opinion. He definitely has some, which we'll get to later, but I don't really like his Thomas voice compared to George Carlin. George Carlin's Thomas voice is amazing. Not my favourite, but I still think George Carlin could win if you're a US fan. Michael Angelis, he wins. Thomas's voice as him has so much energy, so much like the character I imagine. Could be because I've grown up with Angelis's narration. However, I do believe he's the best narrator as the Thomas, as I've said in my season 6 review. Now, we have to go to Alec Baldwin. His Thomas voice is okay. Is it on par with Ringo Starr's? Yeah, not really. Like I said in the other video, the characters sound like Alec Baldwin as a narrator. For the other narrators, except for like Pierce Brosnan, that's not the case. Now, Michael Brandon. I don't like any of his character voices really. So just saying Brandon's probably not going to get any points. And that's just my opinion because I haven't really watched his narration or listened to it. I've listened to it for a bit and I just don't like it, so he's probably not going to win any character voices. And Pierce Brosnan, he does an okay job, better than Brandon, but I even prefer Alec Baldwin's and Ringo Starr's. But he definitely tried, and I will give him respect for that. Now that Thomas is done, Percy. This was a hard one for me. I would go with Michael Angelis, and I will. However, George Carlin is so close that I'm going to have to give it a tie for this one. George Carlin does a better job as Percy than he does at Thomas. Ringo Starr's is fine, but he's too low pitch in my opinion for Percy. Alec Baldwin, it doesn't really suit Percy. He suits well as James, not Percy. Michael Brandon, not good at all. And Pierce Brosnan, nah. Now we've got James. James is obviously Michael Angelis. George Carlin is pretty good. Ringo Starr's pretty good as James, but I prefer Michael Angelis. Alec Baldwin is actually quite good as James, and I think that James did a pretty good job as a voice in the US narration. However, Pierce Brosnan actually did well for James. And Michael Brandon is also okay as James, but Michael Angelis has to win because of his action and his energy for James. Edward. Now, this was quite hard to do. I don't think Michael Angelis narrated enough of Edward to win this one, so yeah. George Carlin did a really good job as Edward. However, I'm going to have to give it to Ringo Starr. His narration just fits the character of Edward really well in season 2. Season 1, Edward is meh, but he definitely makes up for it. Michael Brandon's Edward, not really my thing, honestly. And Alec Baldwin's Edward is fine, but like Michael Angelis, he didn't narrate enough of Edward, and I don't think he did a really good job as Edward when he wasn't narrated. So, Henry. Henry was kind of hard to do. I do like the George Carlin voice, however, I have to give this one to Ringo Starr as well. Michael Angelis does a quite good job, but I do prefer Ringo's voice for Henry. Alec Baldwin does a meh job, but I don't think it suits Henry that well. Michael Brandon is just not good in general. And Pierce Brosnan is, he didn't narrate Henry, like, basically he didn't. Alright, so we've got Gordon next. Now, this was quite hard for me. I really love Ringo Starr's Gordon, but I really love Michael Angelis's Gordon. But I also love George Carlin's Gordon. I like Alec Baldwin's Gordon quite a bit. Michael Brandon's Gordon is not that good, but he definitely improved a bit. Pierce Brosnan's Gordon is meh. I would give it to the 3, but I can't do that. So George Carlin has enough energy for Gordon. Michael Angelis has the good pitch for Gordon, and Ringo Starr's the biggest strength for Gordon, which makes it quite hard. But I'm gonna go with George Carlin because I like his narration, and I just wanted to give him some awards because he definitely needs it. Now, Toby the Tram Engine. He's an engine that I don't really think about when I think character voice. I like Ringo Starr's, but yeah. Michael Angelis isn't my favourite either for Toby. George Carlin isn't my favourite either. Alec Baldwin? Yeah. But I think I'm going to have to go, yes, with Alec Baldwin on this one, because I loved his narration in Toby and the Flood. So we're going to have to go with him for this one. And I just wanted to be fair to the US narrations. Again, like Toby, Duck's character voice isn't something I think about when I think the character, rather the design and the personality. But Ringo Starr's Duck is really good. However, I have to give this one to Michael Angelis again, just for the energy. George Carlin was really close again, but I prefer Michael Angelis's. Michael Brandon's isn't very good, Alec Baldwin's is meh, and I don't think Pierce Brosnan narrated Duck at all. So, that's it for Duck. Donald and Douglas. Donald, Ringo Starr, Douglas, Michael Angelis. I can do that, they're 2 separate characters. Moving on, we have Oliver. Well, Ringo Starr can't narrate Oliver because he didn't, so it is starting to get unfair. However, we've got George Carlin, who did really well for Oliver, but I have to give this one again to Michael Angelis. Alec Baldwin's Oliver is pretty good, but again, I have to give this one to Michael Angelis. Diesel was a hard one to choose for me. I didn't know whether to pick Michael Angelis or Ringo Starr. George Carlin's is good, but not as good as these two. But I think I'll give this one to Ringo Starr because I just prefer the way he speaks as Diesel. Because some of Michael Angelis' Diesels, it's not that good all the time. So this one goes to Ringo. Now, Terence the Tractor. He wasn't in Season 7 or the Hit era, so Michael Brandon doesn't get a chance here. Pierce Brosnan doesn't either because he wasn't in The Great Discovery. Now, Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin narrated the very little Terence that he appeared in Season 5. But, again, barely narrated him. Michael Angelis also barely narrated him too, so it's down to George Carlin or Ringo Starr. I had to choose. I have found a really hard time choosing this one. However, I do believe that Ringo Starr's Terence suits the character a bit more than George Carlin does, but George Carlin still does a very well done job, so that's for Terence for you. Now, Bertie. Bertie was another difficult one to choose, because I love his Ringo Starr's voice. George Carlin's also very good too. But I go with Michael Angelis because, he actually puts a lot of energy into Bertie, which suits the character very well. Also, in Season 6 with Thomas and the Jet Engine, his Want to Race Thomas meme, ha 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 ha. Well, it's funny. Let's talk about the other narrators' attempts. Now, George Carlin. He does quite a good job as Bertie. Again, like all the others that Michael Angelis has won, he is very close. Now, Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr does a quite good job, but I don't think he can beat Michael Angelis and George Carlin. Michael Brandon, Alec Baldwin, and Pierce Brosnan aren't that good, and they didn't get to narrate enough of Bertie. So that concludes Bertie. Trevor, the Traction Engine. Another one that wasn't narrated as much. So we've got Ringo Starr, George Carlin, and Michael Angelis, who narrated Trevor quite a bit that can go for the award. I don't think Alec Baldwin and Michael Brandon and Pierce Brosnan, are fair to this, but, they just didn't narrate him. Not my fault. Blame Hit and Mattel, or even blame Britt Allcroft or the Ghislaine Company. But, yeah. Anyways, Trevor's George Carlin voice is, pretty good. Michael Angelis isn't as good as George Carlin's, in my opinion. And Ringo Starr's is the best, in my opinion. Suits Trevor. Couldn't imagine Trevor without anyone else's voice. Now, Harold. Harold's a character that is kind of hard, really. Ringo Starr, in my opinion, isn't as good as Harold as Michael Angelis and George Carlin. Alec Baldwin's Harold is fine, I guess. And Michael Brandon's is not very good. Pierce Brosnan's isn't, barely narrated Harold. Don't even think he did in The Great Discovery. And, of course, George Carlin doesn't win. George Carlin does a great job as Harold, but Michael Angelis, I love his Harold. In season 3 to, season 6, I loved his Harold voice. I like it in season 4, season 3. Michael Angelis just does a good job as Harold too, and I quite like it there. Now Daisy. Daisy's a character that doesn't appear all too much in Thomas. Michael Brandon, Pierce Brosnan didn't really narrate Daisy, because she didn't appear in the Hit era in season 7. Alec Baldwin, I don't remember he narrated Daisy, so he's not in the running. Ringo Starr. Now, when he narrated season 2 and Daisy, he did alright. He did pretty well. However, it doesn't match George Carlin. He did amazing for Daisy, and he narrated Daisy for the longest time out of all the narrators. But Michael Angelis wins because when he narrated season 4, the episode that Daisy was in, which I forgot, please don't shoot me, he narrated Daisy very well in that episode. Yes, I know it's just one episode, but still. I'm pretty sure there was others, but I can't remember. But yeah, Michael Angelis steals this one. So let's move to the next character. Now, Boko. Like Daisy, Boko didn't appear in the series all too much, but when he did, people normally liked his appearances. Maybe it's because of his role, but in my opinion it's because of the design. Because his model, his paintwork of green just screams, "Look at me!" And I think it looks really nice. But back to the narration. George Carlin and Ringo Starr's narration is not my favourite. It's alright for what it is, but it's not all too good comparing it to Michael Angelis, who wins again. He didn't narrate Boko that much, but he narrated him in season 3 and a bit in season 5. Speaking of season 5, Alec Baldwin's narration is for what he did, and Michael Brandon and Pierce Brosnan didn't narrate Boko, so that concludes Boko. Bill and Ben. Now, Bill and Ben, this one was quite hard. George Carlin and Michael Angelis, done. Ringo Starr's Bill and Ben aren't that good in my opinion. Also with Alec Baldwin, who barely narrated Bill and Ben, Michael Brandon's is not good in my opinion, and Pierce Brosnan didn't narrate enough to win. So that's it for Bill and Ben. I mean, not too much to say about this. And yes, again, like Donald and Douglas, I can do two characters, the twins, because Bill is one character and Ben is the other. Now, Mavis. Mavis is a character that people don't usually talk about, which is kind of sad, seeing as she's got such a good personality and a character and stuff like her growth. But her narration, Ringo Starr didn't narrate her, so that gets eliminated. George Carlin and Michael Angelis have the best voices here. Alec Baldwin's is okay, Michael Brandon's is bad, and Pierce Brosnan didn't narrate Mavis. So that brings it down to George Carlin or Michael Angelis. This was actually quite difficult, but I'm giving it to Michelangelo because he has more energy and he sounds more feisty than George Carlin does. Now, Bulgy. Ringo Starr and Alec Baldwin and Pierce Brosnan didn't narrate Bulgy. Bulgy appeared in Season 7 after his debut in Season 3 in the television series where Michael Brandon narrated for the US. So in the running, we got Michael Brandon, Michelangelo, and George Carlin. Now, Michael Brandon isn't a good narrator and isn't good at character voices, so he doesn't win. George Carlin wins. Michelangelo's is good, but I prefer George Carlin's because he feels more feisty and more filled with anger than Bulgy does as Michelangelo's. Michelangelo's just feels more, mad and not as grumpy. So that's it for Bulgy, and that was our final character. I will be doing the characters from Season 4 onwards in another video. So that was it for this video. Get angry at my opinions down in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Sorry this video took a while to come out, but I'll see you next time. Bye!